Shri A.K. Dolji, Director VIF, and eminent participants. I first thank Mr. Dole for giving me this opportunity to present myself before you, to share certain perspectives over an issue which is one of the crucial.
Actually, I'm not good at doing. Speak into the mic.
It's not coming.
Old age.
My fault, sir. I don't know whether it's now it's coming. It's coming. Yeah. So, we were talking about the issue, the India-China border, the conflict, the tension, the issue which is crucial to our national security, the issue that is fulcrum of our relation with our neighbor China, and the issue which has been resistant to a solution for the last over 60 years. Now, at the outset itself, I would like to mention that any public discourse on China border, India-China border, is severely handicapped. It's handicapped primarily on account of insufficient facts, the crucial facts which are not in public domain, the facts which are withheld by the government. And this withholding of facts is not something which is a recent phenomenon, it is a legacy. I would only recall a letter of Prime Minister Nehru on 26th of September 1959. He wrote a letter to Chow Yun-lai. By the time much water has flown down the Indus, things had taken very ugly turn. The letter is a very interesting yet sad reading. It carries the flavor of a jilted lover. In that he writes that look, from 1954 till today, you have done a lot of things. You built over 100 miles road in Aksai Chin. You killed our soldiers at Longju. You detained our patrol for long in Aksai Chin. And we didn't tell our people. We didn't even tell our countrymen, hoping that we might be able to settle it among ourselves. So this character to withhold the crucial fact from the country is a legacy of those days. And when you read the pieces coming in either the journals or dailies, written by very respectable, mature analysts, very often one realizes that these are based on, essentially on certain occasional statements made by our leaders, our people in position, statements made by the Chinese leaders, publications in Chinese journals, write-ups in our papers or maybe in third countries. But essentially, all these are in the nature of interpretation of semantics. For example, one of the paper written recently I read, which has been quoted several in some other papers also, not exactly the paper quoted, but simply the same narrative, saying that how the Chinese President Xi, what he told a week before the BRICS and what he told on the sideline of BRICS. What he told before the BRICS, about a week before, was that in the Sino-Indian border, problem is a legacy of the past and it will take time. And what he told on the sideline of the BRICS was that he expected the special representatives to strive for a fair, rational and mutually acceptable framework as soon as possible. So the interpretation is that perhaps there is urgency on the part of China to settle the issue. I tell you, if the interpretation is on the semantics and devoid of substance, it can be ludicrously absurd. China is not in a hurry to solve this issue. Many a times I feel that the analysts are very akin to a character in an anecdote where a guy, after having a convivial evening, when he came out for coming home, walked to his parked car and went to drop his key, and for the whole night he kept searching for the key under the nearest street lamp. Not because the key was there, because that is where the light was. So you pick up the statement given by our leaders, given by Chinese, given written here and there, and that's not the basic facts. The facts have been withheld, have not been shared with the people at large. And so our interpretations are, many a times, interpretation of the situation is misleading. Now with this caveat, we'll progress the talk of the day. I will first try to take a short cruise through the history channel, primarily because to give it a context, and then we will come to the contemporary myths and realities of our conflict along the border. One of the myths which Chinese created and which have been bought into by us, by our strategic analysts and the people, is that we have undefined border with China. Nothing could be farther from truth. We have undefined border from China. This was written first by Chiang Mai to his letter, in his letter to the Prime Minister Nehru in January 1959. Of course, before that he made some utterances, but he made it very specific that we have undefined border. Now, did he mean to say that India and the countries with Tibet or whichever the areas were at that point of time in the past, they had no border? If we mean by border, by a defined border, if we mean the border settled or delimited using the modern cartographic tools and techniques, by satellite imageries, yes, there was no such border. But the border in the past were defined customarily by the contours of the mountain and course of the river. Traders, they knew when they crossed the pass whom they paid the levy. Those who came by this river, they landed, the landing point to whom they paid the levy, they knew that in whose jurisdiction they had come. And similarly the pilgrims, other travelers. So, borders were defined by customs and traditions, and we had such border. When it comes to the western border, western border with China, we have a treaty of 1842, the treaty between Maharaja of Jammu Gulab Singh and Emperor of China. It's so specific, so clear. So clear that when 4 years later, when the British, they set up a boundary commission and they invited cooperation of the Chinese, Chinese responded saying that, why? We have a clearly settled border and there is no need to revisit that. We'll come to the eastern sector later. Let's see. Now, unfortunately, this is not very. This is a photocopy of the Gazetteer of Kashmir of 1891. Now, this dotted line shows the boundary. External boundary shows the route. Dotted line is the boundary. This way on the east, this is, and here is your Aksai Chin, here is your Dingpa. These are all part of Jammu and Kashmir, part of the kingdom of Maharaja of Jammu. Now this is a map given by Chinese to the British in 1893 when the Russians were moving towards Central Asia. They had taken much of it, and there was a concern among the British rulers whether they would come very close and what. At the time there was exchange of map, and this is the map given by the Chinese to the British, 1893. The red line is the boundary of Ladakh, with China.
I can't see. Is it a McCartney line?
No, it's not McCartney.
I can't see properly. Okay.
Yeah, it's I know that these are the photocopies, so it's not very for the sake of authenticity. I have not done any manipulation on that. So that's what it is. But the fact is that the ridge that you see here is Karakoram Ridge. Our boundary is here. This is Karakoram Pass, and the boundary goes beyond this. So this is the map given by the Chinese. After that, in 1908, Imperial Atlas. Unfortunately, I just couldn't make a slide of that. It shows exactly this, as well as in the eastern sector. What we have is very much close to McMahon line. This is a postal map of China, issued in 1970. Now this one gives the boundary outline. Now this area is Exaiqing. This is your Exaiqing. This is the outline of this being the postal map of China. They have given the outline of the Chinese Empire. Even this side is very close to what you have McMahon. Very close to, very proximate to that. This is a map issued in 1970, and they carried on with this map. It's not that they changed the map. The mischief began in 1935-36 when they issued another atlas, what they call it, Sin Pao Atlas, published in Shanghai, where they started showing the part of Exaiqing and part of our eastern frontier as part of China. Well, that was the map that they had drawn. But as far as we are concerned, the maps were there, and as for the western sector, eastern sector, Chinese map themselves showed the area that belonged to India. Now this is McMahon line drawn after the similar convention in 1914. I'll come to the other one. This is another one which is signed by the. This is the. Now this is the line which is this delineates the boundary of Tibet with China, this much, and this is with India. This is McMahon line part. This dark line is what is called as outer Tibet line. The space between the red line and the black line is what they call inner Tibet. Inner Tibet, the British accepted. The Chinese had the sovereignty. They had a much greater say. But as far as the outer Tibet is concerned, it was only suzerainty. The Chinese had a very limited say in the affairs of Tibet. And this part of it is what you have, what is the McMahon line. Now this has been initially signed by the British, Chinese Yuan Chen, and Tibetan representative Lo Chen Sata. All have signed this map. Convention has not been signed. That was initial by Yuan Chen, but he did not sign it. Later he got instructions from Beijing, don't sign it. So he didn't sign it. But as far as the maps are concerned, there was a map which delineated our border with China. So if anyone says that we do not have, we have an undefined border with China, is carrying on a Chinese myth. Nothing more than that. What happened after independence? That's something very interesting, and that is what changed the course. 2 months after independence, on 16th of October 1947, one letter came from Tibetan administration. President Dalai Lama was pretty young, under 14. One of his ministers dashed off a letter to Prime Minister Nehru, asking for a return of the 5 fingers to the palm. And the 5 fingers were Tawang, Bhutan, Sikkim, Darjeeling, and Ladakh. They said they were all parts of Tibet, and British had taken over them, imperialist power. Now that they have left, you please return it to us. At the time, the government of India did not pay much attention to it and did not respond to the letter. Later, in fact, Chawla quoted that we have made a demand like that. But the fact is that it warranted a response at that point of time, but perhaps it was thought at the time that it was, Tibetans writing to India, perhaps it only met with indifference. But in 1950, after the Chinese PLA moved into Tibet, and things started heating up. 1954, we had an agreement which is known more for its pompous preamble than the content of it, what is called Panchshi. I have been at a loss for the last over 23 years that I have been a student of this border. I have been trying to fathom what did India gain out of that agreement. Why did we go for that agreement? I have talked to people who are much wiser, much better informed, seeking the answer that why did we go for it? There is no rational answer to it, because that particular agreement was a total sellout. China wanted that. China needed that agreement because China was far more vulnerable. But India had a special political interest, specifically mentioned in Simla Convention. And under that, by virtue of being neighbor, India had placed its telegraph office, its trade office. It has its component of armed detachment to sort of as protective elements to these offices. India had even a treaty-making relationship. Now, China, which had moved into Tibet and was very uncomfortable with dealing with this new territory, and India, which had a history of a special relationship, they wanted to devoid India of that special relationship. And the agreement says it is an agreement between People's Republic of China and Republic of India for the trade and cultural intercourse between the Tibet region of China and India. Now, Tibet region of China, without specifically mentioning the autonomy aspect of it, and in preamble number one, accepting the sovereignty of China and territorial integrity of Tibet was something which they wanted, a commitment from India that China was the sovereign power over Tibet, and India should accept it, acknowledge it. One of those five preambles which later became Rami, which was being touted as Panchsheel, and we also as a student at the time, we were told how the Chacha has given the legacy of the great doctrine in sort of international diplomacy. The first is recognition of territorial integrity and sovereignty, mutual. Second is non-aggression. Well, Chinese were apprehensive that the British used to send military missions. They wanted to do, you will not do that. Third is non-interference in internal affairs. You shall not interfere whatever happens in Tibet. Now these are the commitments. Of course, the fourth one was mutual benefit, and fifth one was a like a peaceful coexistence. But this preamble of the agreement and the acceptance of the fact, India's acknowledgement of Tibet as a region of China, with China having sovereignty over it, was something which China wanted, and they got it. We didn't get anything. What was the trade? Some salt, some sugar, or some sheep, some yak tails and yak hairs? What was that? To have a trade, to have an agreement. It was essentially, as some of us would like to believe, that it was essentially a projection of the then Prime Minister as leader of the emerging new world. When the colonies were getting liberated one after another, they had formed the League Against Imperialism. And he was one of the persons, though many people said that he was far more British than the British themselves, he was carried away. He was swayed by the rhetoric of anti-imperialism. And to prove that, yes, we have no imperialistic ambitions, and whatever the Chinese did, whatever the British did, we don't subscribe to that. And in that, a great damage was done, because then the Simla Convention was undermined. Because how do you recognize the integrity of the convention when the party undertaking the convention, signatory to that, is not a sovereign power? So it did a lot of damage. That was 54. It progressed. By 58, a lot of things happened. 59, 20th and 21st of October at Konga Pass, we had, yes, here is this Konga Pass where our first patrol on 20th October was disarmed and detained by the Chinese. They had already reached up to that point. And then the next day, a larger party went. They were ambushed, attacked, and we suffered heavy casualties. And look at what happened thereafter. 21st, we suffered heavy casualties. 22nd, Chinese, they wrote a very strong, stinging letter to India, accusing India of unacceptable behavior and provocative behavior. And we responded only on 23rd, and that was a response to the letter, not to the event. 20th of October, our patrol was detained. 21st of October, we suffered heavy casualty. We kept quiet. I think perhaps even at the time, I don't know whether what was the intention for that, whether it was just a lethargy or whether it was again an intention of not making the people of India know what was happening. But we responded only after 22nd, after the Chinese letter of 22nd. You know, till 1958, so these are the points, the dark points where our patrol used to go. Outer perimeter of Aksai. When Chiang Lai, he in his 1956 letter, he claimed this dark line was their position. This is what up to this China had jurisdiction. There was a claim, and by 1960 it changed to this dotted line. Then pushing it forward. What happened in 1962? We know. After that, we went into a kind of a cringing mood. We retreated. And though 1960, this is a map issued by the Government of India, Minister of External Affairs. This is what, of course, it was the map. This is the map, and this is the western sector. This is middle sector. This is eastern sector. But this is a map which we all tradition and custom that the boundary that we have been reflected in this map. Nothing new. It was there all through. You know, after that, we had one very volatile situation in 1987, because after 1986, when Nepal became Arunachal Pradesh as a state, Chinese reacted strongly. We had our own defenses, and in 1987, we had some showdown at Namkachu in Arunachal. But thereafter, the Chinese have continued maintaining the fiction of LAC, line of actual control, and keeping the concept of LAC as a dynamic concept without freezing it anywhere. Now, existence of LAC is another myth, which has been told to us by our government from time to time that yes, it is only, and recently when in April there was a situation in Dapsam, in western sector, our government said that is only a perception of violation of LAC. Now, line of actual control is a myth. We do not exactly know for sure where is our line of actual control. Ask the border guarding troops. They are confused. We have created another thing, what we call LOP, line of patrol. One is a border, Far behind is line of actual control, which is a perceived line. It depends on who is there on the border to defend that kind of position. We have a line of patrol which is further behind with instructions to our troops that don't cross that LOP, don't go near LAC, line of actual control. So we have been restraining our troops, not allowing them to go and even be present at the LOC to consolidate and ensure that the LOC that as we perceive it should be defended, its integrity should be defended. No, we have not been able to do that. Often in some writings we also hear about disputed pockets. Again, it's a myth. What is disputed pocket? When your whole border is disputed. Whenever they create a situation, we say it is disputed. It is a dispute which are created by the Chinese. Wherever they come aggressively, we mark it as a disputed pockets. There is nothing except for the Sikkim border, where it is settled to the Treaty of 1890. The rest of the borders, I do not subscribe to the notion that we have a disputed pockets. Though many people would like to believe and write that there are 9 pockets, there are 10 pockets, many people have written the pieces. But when your whole border is disputed, where is the disputed pocket concept comes? Now, there are certain contemporary realities which we should be aware of. And these realities are that there have been a spurt in intrusions. And more so after 2008-9. On an average, since 2009, there are about 400 intrusions. And these intrusions are not just a minor, a small detachment patrol straying into our area. These are aggressive intrusions. And when I say aggressive, it means it's larger in strength. Today we have the patrol, the intrusions, rarely less than a platoon strength, more than a platoon, commanded by the officers. Not like a small detachment, their NCOs are all coming and walking and taking a day to and passing through that. They're more aggressive. Aggressive in terms of manpower, aggressive in terms of ordnance, aggressive in terms of command structure, the senior officers commanding. There have been, for the last couple of years, again 2009 onwards, more and more air intrusions we find. More and more helicopters intrusions, aircraft, and unarmed vehicles, UAVs. Through that, now 2011, there were 30 such intrusions, air intrusions in our area. So this is aggressive intrusion. These are not just random as a pinprick. When the recent thing happens in Depsang, our Prime Minister said it was a localized issue, as if it was some kind of a skirmish. It isn't the case. It's strategically focused and focused in certain areas which they consider is very crucial to them. One is on the western sector, is what happened in April and what has been happening. In fact, this incident got leaked into the media. Somehow media got to know, and then it became an issue of discussion. But many people don't know that in 2009, the Chinese had built a 15-kilometer road coming close to our flag junction here, Three Heights. In 2010, they had completed about 23-kilometer road. It's not shown on the map, there is Jivan Nala, which comes below Bushe. Now, this axis that we have, Karakoram, Daulat Beg Oldie, Track Junction, Bushe, on this axis, these are our posts. Now, putting a pressure, reaching up to Tree Height, they have a capability to deny your access to maintaining your Daulat Beg Oldie post. By striking you at Jivanala, they are developing the capability to block your movement beyond Burcha. They are developing the capability, not that they have got that, but they are increasing our vulnerabilities. This has been going on for the last all these years. We do not know, the country doesn't know about it. Of the 400 and all intrusions that have taken place, that are taking place on an average, about 250 are in western sector, about 100 plus in the eastern, a particular pocket where I will come now. But in this western sector, mostly you find one here is, unfortunately it's not very dark, it's a Pangong lake here, Pangong Show, which is a gateway to your entire subsector north. Now here you have over 100 intrusions, they take place here, they do it by boat as well as by road sending their troops. And of course inside they are building roads and other infrastructure coming close to our supply line. It's focused, it's not. And why it is, I'll come to that. Here, why is it that it started in 2009? What happened in 2008 or 9 that prompted Chinese to be aggressive? It was 2008 that we got the news of Tibet uprising again. A lot of things happened in Tibet in 2008 in the run-up to the Olympics. And it was in that year that Xinjiang, the adjoining province of China, what China claims, that also erupted. In 2009 there was a massive riot, over 200 people were killed. You must have read in the paper 2 days back that 27 persons have been killed in Xinjiang again, just 2 days back. In April there were 21 guys killed. These are all coming in the media. Now Xinjiang is boiling, and there the unrest is not like Tibetans subdued that they do self-immolation, there they kill and get killed. So Xinjiang is in turmoil. Tibet is not yet pacified, unlikely to get pacified in foreseeable future. Now what they are doing is they are denying you this act. This is Xinjiang. They are already, this part, if you say this is the part occupied Kashmir. This area is what Pakistan has ceded, about 5,100 square kilometers to China through 1963 agreement. So the tri-junction we had at Afghanistan, India's tri-junction was with Xinjiang, Afghanistan and India. Now it has shifted to this point. That means, our border, our frontier, northern frontier had 3 ranges: Hindu Kush, Mustang and Karakoram. Of the 2 ranges have been virtually pushed back, and here is what is, it has the tri-junction somewhere lies here, de facto tri-junction. And here is Karakoram Pass. Now this is the small Siok Valley area that you have with you. Of course, you can say that there is a big mountain in between Nubra and Siok. It is difficult and all that. Nothing is difficult in the age of technology today. But the point is that you have a very small corridor here. And they are denying you your capability in this corridor, thereby separating you, distancing you from Xinjiang. Because they believe that a troubled Xinjiang in the vicinity of India is not good for them. They are doing it with purpose. And then in 2009, I would link it with the disturbances coming up in Xinjiang province. You know what? Coming to the eastern part, I said about 400 and all odd intrusions, nearly 250 are in the areas of Ladakh, Pangong and above. Over 100 intrusions are taking place at this point. Where is it? It is Kevito here in the Dichu. This is Lohit river which comes from Tibet, enters India. This is the Anjao district of Arunachal Pradesh. Now this is the point where, as Lohit enters, it is at this point that they are pushing forward. Why are they pushing forward? They have shifted through an agreement with Burma in 1960. The tri-junction which was here, they have shifted 8 kilometers down to a place called Difu Pass, there. Where you see the line. This is the Difu here, mountain range here. It is the source of Dichu river. It flows like this and meets, it's a tributary of Loe. Now, this entire, they have shifted the tri-junction from here to this point, and by pushing your petrol to the tri-junction, Indian petrol passes through this. You cross this, and along the river Dichu, your petrol goes. Here they are denying you ability to cross and then come and reach near the tri-junction. This entire passage. Now here, what is the ground situation? This intrusion started again in 2009, 2010, more so every year the number increases. At this point, the McMahon line, it goes over a ridge, it's called Madan Ridge. And at this point it breaks into two, northern and southern. Now, by all rationality, this is the northern ridge that should have been considered by us as the line. But somehow, de facto, we have pulled ourselves to the southern ridge. But what the Chinese have done is that in between this passage where the river comes, they have built the road. The road they have built and they are reaching up to the southern ridge. So they have built the road right up to the southern ridge. That is very close to the point where Dichu river meets Loe, and the point from where your petrol goes to the tri-junction. Now the result is this entire pit area is now vulnerable. This is likely to fall to the Chinese control. And when this falls here, that doesn't mean that we will be up to that point, because beyond this ridge, the next one is here, which is close to Walong. Walong is a point. Here is Walong. Now from here, once you are pushed, you come up to this, which is close to Loe and then to plains of Assam. Now, this is an aggressive design, both on the eastern extremity, on the western extremity. In between, at Shikpi and Kaurik in Himachal and Barahoti in Chawadi district of Uttarakhand, they have also created problems. There also they are putting more and more the troops, air violations they are doing. Essentially what they are trying is, they are all the passes that leads to Tibet, except that in Sikkim, where it is well fortified by them as well as us. Rest of the passes, they are blocking any access to Tibet, any access to Xinjiang, distancing from all area. And here, they are pushing you down to, on the eastern extremity, to a point of your higher vulnerability. And what we are doing in the process? We are in a self-denial mode. Every time something happens, we try to play it down, as if nothing big has happened. Our Prime Minister is on record calling it an acne, what happened in the south. Now when you play it down, you are playing in the hands of your adversary, as if it's not a major problem. Now, while you publicly play it down, you restrain your troops from any kind of confrontation. As a result, the face-offs are much less. After when you said that there has been an exponential increase in intrusion, the natural corollary should be that there should be a greater number of face-offs, our troops going and facing them. How come our face-offs have declined? Not even hardly about 6, 7, 8 in a year. Because our troops have been restrained as a matter of policy. And what happens is very interesting. Whenever there is a face-off, you will find the Chinese carrying a placard. Indians go back. Indian side will say, of course they will say, Chinese go back, and then there will be, along with that, there will be another placard, which will say, banner, which will say, Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai. So we carry two. Now, this is not the way to secure our frontier. In fact, we are doing a great disservice to the country. Now, what should be done? As a student of this border for so many years, the first thing that occurs to me is, unless we get out of this denial, self-denial mode, there is no answer. We must accept there is a problem, and it is a serious problem, and the problem has to be confronted not necessarily by war. Every problem is not sorted out by war. There are alternative tools. We need to take recourse to that, but when we deny that there is a problem, well, how do you contest it? We must set right our strategic coordinates. What are our interests? If you look at the way, now nobody has seen tomorrow, the way USSR disintegrated. One doesn't say that China is going to disintegrate tomorrow. But what will happen? One doesn't know. But Xinjiang, your access, your proximity to Xinjiang, it actually opens you to entire Central Asian republics. The whole CAR. It is, you are being denied. Now, all these losses, are they acceptable? Or do we need to ensure that we do not suffer these losses? How do you, then what we need is, after having a clear, a strategic view of it, not taking it as a localized affair, localized skirmishes or ethnic, having a broader perspective, a strategic perspective, we need to augment our infrastructure. It's badly needed. Everybody knows that what kind of asymmetrical situations that we are, geography apart. We need to make. We have been very, very slow. And there is also need to review whether we need to keep our troops occupied in a sector which is relatively not of that priority. Let us take the case of Fogo. It is supposed to defend you from the Chinese in the eastern sector. Now 2 divisions of the Corps is doing the counterinsurgency operations. Can we do something about it? Can we have a thought of it? Because we need to take this border more seriously. And at the end, I'll say that the government needs to share certain crucial facts with the people and believe in the collective wisdom of the country. A handful of people in the government alone are not patriotic. Nobody can say that anyone is more patriotic than the other. We are all Indians, we are proud of our country, and we have as much at stake as anyone in the government. So take advantage of the collective wisdom. Well, I have not gone into the preparations, the Chinese defense preparations, what we have on our side. Essentially, my attempt has been to highlight the vulnerabilities, increasing vulnerabilities, and how in our denial mode we have been retreating, how the Chinese have been aggressive, how they have been aggressive in a strategically focused manner in certain chosen sectors, and how we have not been able to defend our positions. Well, if there are issues, there are some questions, I'll be happy to take.
Thank you very much.